Hi everyone, I'm just rebooting my camera. Hopefully it will work. If not, okay, so we're just going to ignore that. I will share slides with you.
Okay.
Okay, here we are. So as has become kind of tradition at this conference, I do want to acknowledge that I am on Treaty 20 and the Williams Treaty territory, which is taken care of by the Michisage people. And they've been great caretakers of this land, so thanks to them for allowing us to be here. So my paper today has been pieced together in a moment of crisis. It is and continues to be a reflection of political agency in an emerging post-COVID world. It is response to the resistance to this new world, a resistance to the reality that, like this conference, we are learning to be together but apart, to limit our consumption and non-essential trips, and to stay home. It is also built on the work of Stephanie Kaz's Buddhist critiques of consumption and David Harvey's critiques of capitalism, both of whom recognize that the isolation we feel today is an everyday experience for many working in a global capitalist system. I'm not going to spend too much time lingering on the theoretical portions of my paper, but I have provided the basis of them on this next slide. Sorry, just hurting this line here. There we go. Instead, I want to spend some time creating a space between two common narratives and the emerging political tensions, contextualizing capitalism, screen time, and productivity. So let me first establish the two narratives I'm hoping to address. The first camp believes our new remote productivity can save our old world through home office hacks, structured routines, and new technology to recreate our former levels of productivity and work ethic. This is the push to return quickly to normal in the context of the pandemic, to rescue our old forms of capitalism and our old identity as workers through Zoom. The second camp is resisting this turn to technology as a place to support productivity. This camp believes that there is a danger in the role of the screen as a facilitator of social interactions, and this danger will become far more pronounced, threatening our social, physical, and mental well-being. This is supported by many scientific studies that have called into question the use of cell phones and its unregulated role as mediator of social interactions within our society. One prominent example of this is the idea of FOMO and its unfortunate impact on our social and mental well-being. Thus, the imagined return to normal in this camp is a return to old rituals and our former office spaces. This return must be facilitated both to support our previous forms of capitalism and to avoid further stabilizing the role of the screen as a mediator of our social inner life and on our identity. Therefore, I think the emerging political tension will often be summed up as simply a tension between screen time and capitalist productivity. Yet, it struck me that neither camp has really addressed the fundamental question we're all wrestling with. Is a return to the old normal justified or necessary? The old normal was far from equitable, good, or understanding of our collective humanity. Too many were treated as objects within a system, as opposed to subjects of their own community. Our social networks, our communities, and our own identity have become increasingly fragmented through this feeling of alienation created through a global marketplace and global consumption. And this is where Harvey and Kazza tie in. Ultimately, the purpose of this paper is to put forward an alternative path, one that recognizes the ability for political agency within digital spaces that offer an opportunity to envision and perhaps even create a better post-COVID world. This requires thinking critically about the moment we are in and the various aspects of our previous system that reinforced inequality. I believe that some folks are exploring this political agency through a virtual island. The virtual island life, a slow-paced, pro-social, and collective space found in Animal Crossing New Horizons. Early on in this pandemic, folks working from home started a small act of resistance. They stopped working at 5 p.m. By reclaiming their time after work through responsible screen time, this virtual island offered a space to reconnect with family and friends, while at the same time offering a safe place to imagine a world after COVID-19, one where perhaps we can continue to stop work at 5 p.m. Thanks to news reports from various folks, including those at the LA Times, we know that players have reportedly developed new routines that include this virtual island and its daily rituals. Animal Crossing is first and foremost a retreat when the world outside became too much, too lonely, and changing too rapidly. Because it is, quite simply, a space that may be curated and reinforce social connections through this crisis. Yet it is also a space that allows players to imagine a world that brings nature inside and out, where you stop and observe the passage of time and beautiful island waterfalls. Players are actively practicing their own political agency by reinstating the boundaries around work that has now invaded our home. Perhaps more importantly, the participation in this virtual island allows players to reimagine a world where time is focused on building relationships, somewhere a slow and mindful pace to life is more often rewarded through game design, but also the improvement that we note in our own social and mental well-being. A new path, a new world for work, may allow greater flexibility in our work and time, meaning shorter commutes, the ability to stay home with a sick family member, and reclaiming personal time on this island after 5 p.m. I want to suggest this practice of political agency may create an opportunity for greater political communities to emerge in a post-COVID world. The second opportunity for political agency that I'm not going to linger on for too long is found in reclaiming a life that exists separate from our cell phone. This is more of a personal reflection as it relates to an experiential learning assignment I took part of in the winter semester of 2020. This assignment saw a small class of graduate students work to actively reduce their cell phone consumption by 80% over 12 weeks. To provide some context, I saw my own consumption go from 6 hours to 2 hours daily. The same political agency being practiced in small ways on this virtual island exists in a small act and dedicated practice of reduction. Our world is increasingly connected, work has invaded our home, and so too has the tools of work. At any moment, I can tell you the latest news about this pandemic, how to improve your work productivity, and how to organize your desk effectively, even how to present the best online conference presentation. In the same way, folks are reclaiming their identities separate from work. There are some who are choosing to take the reduction of a cell phone use as a political act. This path draws clear separation between the communities of Facebook, where masks and their value are so often debated at this time, and the community you find at your local park. It is reclaiming the political agency to form your identity as a complex and fully human person outside of a screen. As we continue through COVID-19, I hope that we find the space to reframe this crisis as both a crisis of capitalism, a break in the hegemony of capitalism, and an opportunity to reflect on the practices we wish to reclaim. We have already found alarming lessons within our crisis. Our daily life can be restricted by government, our healthcare system is dependent on a competitive economic system, our global world can be brought to a sudden stop by a small cluster of cells. Yet this crisis also continues to offer beacons of hope. Finding these moments of quiet reflection and practices of agency allows us to see the possibility for stronger relationships, a more equitable world, and good governance to emerge from the dust. This is creating actively, through our own agency, a new idea of normal. It may seem strange to think about the good we may learn out of this crisis, but through the simple act of participation in a new online game, many folks have found an opportunity to create an identity outside of work. Instead, this identity is formed through connections with our friends. I think this is an important lesson to take forward, one that may help to address our crisis of loneliness when we emerge from our homes. So perhaps I'll end on this note. While I remain optimistic for the opportunities of change using our own political agency in both big ways and small, it is also important to acknowledge that this pandemic creates opportunities for capitalist forces to further entrench the inequalities that support their power. As some would remind us, this is the moment for a double movement. This pushback from capitalism against the call for greater social protections. And I think this is found in some of the debates around Canada's emergency response benefit as a protection for people in need versus the call by some for a swift return to work. We're in this moment of transformation, and our own action, our own political agency, and the policies we choose to support determines what direction this crisis will take us. It will also determine our identity in a new world and a new form of work. Thank you.